her son was at school. She was home cleaning the house and in his room cleaning up and putting things away. And she thought her son's waterbed was leaking, so she went over to inspect it.
Murders, mysteries, unexplained stories, and our family's crazy opinions on them all. Join us now. The Family School of Thought is in session.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for stopping in again this week, and hopefully everybody's having a good week so far. How is the weather in Portland, Oregon?
Hot. Very, very hot. We were at like 96. I think we're at 96 now, but for sure it was our hella top peak number today was 96. It's unbearable for me. So I've spent all day in air conditioning, not dealing with it.
It's in the 90s here too.
Yeah, it's not fun for me.
It was like 89, I think.
No, it was in the 90s.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
When I asked Alexis, it said 89, and I went, but it was pretty hot.
I'm sure when we go to Texas in August, it won't.
Yeah, but with that.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Jess? Is it hot there?
I have been.
It must be pretty cold.
Yeah, I have been inside in air conditioning all day, so I was extremely busy at work, so I didn't get outside for lunch or anything, and kept my car cool when I was driving home. So
there you go.
It was hot though, muggy. So
good.
But when you're inside and you have air conditioning, it's nice and it feels good.
You forget about it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sometimes though, some people have jobs where they have to go in and out all day. Mm-hmm. That makes it rough.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jesse, why don't you get us started with some fun facts?
We have some history unexplained mystery facts.
Okay.
The first one is Stockholm's vampire murder. So on May 4th, 1932, Lily Lindstrom, who had been working as a prostitute in Stockholm, Sweden, was found bludgeoned to death in her apartment in the Atlas neighborhood. Police found her 2 to 3 days after she had been murdered, naked and face down on her bed. Strangely, investigators discovered Lindstrom's body had been completely drained of her blood, and there was a gravy ladle close by with traces of her blood in it, or on it, rather, leading some to question whether her murderer consumed or collected her fluids, and giving the unknown murderer the nickname the Atlas Vampire. Considering that Lindstrom, her line of work, the police immediately questioned her known clients, but none of them turned over any substantial information or appeared to be a probable suspect. And despite plentiful DNA evidence at the scene, modern DNA testing was not possible at the time, and consequently, no suspects were ever identified, and there have been no convictions for the murder of Lily Lindstrom.
Wow. And no other murders like that.
Again, I'm reading from a little piece of paper from a calendar. Doesn't provide any further information. Maybe I need to start doing a little background, deep dive on these, So I have another one. I just saw it and I thought of what we talked about last week with Cassie's My Twin Doll. And I thought this one was funny. So it's the Village of the Twins. It's in rural India. There's a town called Kodinhai. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that is it's similar in most ways to any other village in its country, except for its other name, which is the Village of the Twins. Village of Twins. That name has been rightly earned due to the fact that the village has an astounding number of twins and it has inspired geneticists and scientists from around the world to travel to the town to study its inhabitants. While in most of the world, 3 of every 100 births result in twins, in this little town, it boasted at least 15 pairs of twins per 100 births in 2008 alone. And when they first drew international interest, doctors there, however, that was in 2008 when they first drew the international interest. And doctors there, however, see that this is commonplace, and the village has had more than 250 pairs of twins over the past few decades, despite their relatively small population. And more importantly, researchers note that the village doesn't exhibit a higher birth rate in general than any other comparable areas. So they wonder if the DNA in the village women, if it's in their DNA or perhaps something in the water and the environment that may be responsible for this anomaly. Without further research, however, the reason for this town's twinning has never been revealed.
Okay,
So.
it's a small town.
So
there's not a lot of people there.
That's
right. It's a rural small town in India. I don't know how to pronounce it, and I'm sure my American
there probably is a lot of they're close,
incestuous.
That's kind of what I wonder if they're not.
If it's in your genes,
but they're all in the same. Yeah.
Well, and I'm also thinking like maybe it's just kind of like a rare form of like, inbreeding. Well, yeah, exactly. Like anomalies caused by inbreeding and incestuous relationships.
Right. Because like really, blue eyes is a form of inbreeding.
Yeah.
Mom and dad.
Blue eyes is.
Yeah.
It's a mutation. You have 3 blue-eyed kids. What do you have to tell us?
3 blue-eyed kids.
Wow. So
yeah,
there you go.
Strange,
there's my history unexplained mystery facts. Maybe next time, the ones I find, I'll do a little bit more of a deep dive. So
just maybe read them before you pull them out.
We've been a little busy.
Whatever works.
We've been really busy.
We're all having fun.
So,
right. Now, Cass, I bet you came up with this song before 5 minutes ago.
Hey, now, I have a calendar. I didn't bring these up. I'm just pulling them off. Okay? It's a
that doesn't help your case. I have a song. I picked it probably like a couple hours ago. But it is probably one of the most recognizable intros, maybe. I don't know. Right. I think it's pretty recognizable. But this week's song is Chop Suey by System of a Down. It's a song that starts, "Wake up! What are you doing?"
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about now. I wouldn't.
You'll know it once I start there.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say that the intro to Friends.
No, that's no.
I was thinking Black Parade.
That one too. That's pretty recognizable. But no, this one is Chop Suey by System of a Down. And it's, off the bat is pretty recognizable. It's recognizable from its lyrics, such as self-righteous suicide, and the fact that the title in and of itself, Chop Suey, was supposed to be self-righteous suicide, but they thought the label wouldn't allow them to use that lyric as a song title. So chop, meaning chop in half, and suey sounds like suicide. Basically, that alludes to self-righteous suicide. But this song was actually pulled from radio shortly after it was released due to a huge event that happened where the lyrics, self-righteous suicide, were considered very taboo at the time. And it was pulled from radio on September 12th, 2001.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Only a month after its release.
Yeah.
So,
I think I remember this, yeah.
This is actually, the reason I did this one is because there's actually an entire list of songs, like I think 100 and some odd songs that were pulled from radio, whether they were playing or older songs that got pulled on September 12th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that. They kind of went through and pulled a bunch of songs.
My favorite,
And movies
not,
too. I remember
yeah,
there was a
right.
lot of
Well, I
movies
guess
they canceled.
one of my favorites
even-
that got pulled was Benny and the Jets got pulled
Yes.
from
Yeah.
radio.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but yeah,
Even Friends, the show, they pulled an episode. There's an unaired episode because it was about Chandler and Monica getting pulled aside at an airport because he like said he was going to bomb the plane as a joke or whatever. And it was supposed to air like close around that time. I don't remember exact date and stuff. And so they pulled that episode and it was never aired.
Wow.
I'm sure it's on like the, on the DVD box
sure you can
set
find
or,
it,
whatever. You probably can stream it now. Oh, you know what? I know Friends was on Netflix for a long time and I don't think it was even in the streaming on Netflix, but I think you can find it on YouTube.
I'm sure you can find it because there's like a lot of shows where you can find like unaired pilots or like canceled shows basically that didn't go anywhere. You can find their episodes.
But they got like detained. I think it was like on their honeymoon or something like that. They got detained and it was like a whole big comedy. That was like the
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought my internet went out.
No.
Okay. That was like the A story line. My screen just went all blank, so I apologize.
Oh, wow.
Thought I lost my internet. So.
Okay. Well,
yeah, that's your song for the week.
That's the song for the week. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, they did a lot of that cancellation during that time. A lot of movies didn't come out.
Right. Yeah. I think this one, I just specifically because the other ones on the list, like the names clearly kind of state why it would get pulled, like Benny and the Jets. But this one, I think a lot of people were like, why would you pull Chop Suey from the radio?
Yeah. Okay. Well, before we get going, Jess, do you have anything you want to share with our people?
Yes. Hit the like button. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel on the podcast platform that you listen to. Listen to us on any podcast platform. Listen to us in your car while you're cleaning your house. Maybe while you're taking a shower or going to the bathroom, if you want to be weird about it. We're there for you. We want to be part of your family and we want you to be part of our family. And send us your thoughts. Send us your stories at thefamilyschoolofthought@gmail.com. Come play with us.
Yeah, share with us. We shared because we were at a couple bonfires over the weekend and we shared with some large groups of people. In fact, they were playing on one of our podcasts in the background.
Aww.
Oh,
it was exciting.
Cute.
Yes, it was.
It's creepy a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to be there when you're listening to it. Okay, that's weird.
And I'm getting people all the time saying, "Hey, you know what you should do?"
Huh?
Or they really like our topics.
There you go.
Lots of times they want to talk to me about it, but I forgot because it was, it wasn't like yesterday we did it, so I kind of forget how the story went. But anyways, Jess, you all set for us this week?
I am. I have a story. I'm going to give a little bit of a trigger warning on this one. It is a murder of a young girl. And some of the information is kind of graphic. So just be prepared for that. But Mom, Dad, you guys may remember this. I don't really remember it, but it was in the 90s, late 90s. And this is the murder of Maddie Clifton. She was born on June 17th, 1990 in Jacksonville, Florida. And she was raised right there. And that was during a time when things weren't so stressful. And she was told to go play outside. She was 8 years old to go play outside on November 3rd, 1998. And that's what she did. And that day, 8-year-old Maddie mysteriously vanished from her home. It was around 5 o'clock. Her mom, Sheila, reported it to the police that she was missing. She had told her to go outside and play, and she hadn't come home, and she didn't know where she was. And so a search was started, and they had like hundreds of volunteers that came out and joined in the search party trying to find her. Camera crews came, and it became like a big national story about this 8-year-old girl going missing and like vanishing basically out of her front yard, kind of thing. And so it was almost immediately, and I tried to find some more information on this, but I really couldn't. But it was almost immediately the police had a neighbor in mind as a suspect. And that neighbor, because that neighbor had been arrested and charged more than 15 years prior for 2 sexual battery cases. But both times, those charges against him were dropped. And I tried to find out more information on that and kind of what happened, but I think because this case kind of went so quickly, that may have just been dropped and kind of forgotten at that time. But that's all the information I really could find on that one. But the search for her went on for about a week. And it came to the point where even the FBI became involved because the local police had not been able to find any kind of results. They couldn't find any clues. And then there was $100,000 reward offered for anybody that could lead to Maddie's safe return. The volunteers searched the surrounding woods. They searched dumpsters around the neighborhood, and it would end within a week. And after she was first disappeared and reported missing, and her body was found bludgeoned and stabbed to death. And she was found by another neighbor by the name of Melissa Phillips. And this is where it kind of gets a little bit gruesome. Melissa Phillips, while her 14-year-old son, Joshua, was at school, she was at home. I'm assuming she was like a stay-at-home mom or work from home, but her son was at school. She was home cleaning the house and in his room, cleaning up and putting things away. And she thought her son's waterbed was leaking. So she went over to inspect it, and look to be able to like fix it and get it from leaking anymore. And to her horror, she found Maddie's corpse hidden underneath the waterbed mattress. She immediately ran out of the house and called the police and let them know that she found Maddie. And the police went to Josh's school and they arrested him that day. It kind of shocked the entire community. Nobody would have believed it was Josh. Classmates and teachers, everybody said that he had like no violent history. He had no issues of, disruptiveness in class or, any issues with other students. He kind of kept to himself, but he was a good kid, quote unquote. But it came out basically that he had murdered her and shoved her under his bed. And he was sleeping on that mattress for the whole week until her body was discovered.
Oh.
So once he was arrested, Josh confessed to the police that he had in fact murdered Maddie, but he had said that it was an accident and first explained that he had that Maddie had came over. They were both outside. She had came over wanting to play with him, and he was hesitant about it, but finally said, yeah. And so she came and played in the front yard at his house, and they were just playing catch with a baseball, and he said that he struck Maddie, with a baseball in the face, and she had started crying. And so then he claims that he accidentally killed her, when he hit her with the baseball bat. But then he later said that she was crying so much that he carried her into the house and brought her up into his bedroom, put her on the floor where she was making more noises and crying. And so he beat her with the baseball bat until she stopped crying. And then once he did that, he put her under the waterbed before his parents would get home because he was scared about his parents finding her in the house and in his bedroom. And then that night before nightfall, and before his Maddie's mom had called the police reporting her missing, he had removed the mattress, and he had slit her throat. And then using his Leatherman multi-tool knife, he continued on and stabbed Maddie in the chest 7 times. And then he put his waterbed mattress back on the bed frame and kind of continued on. So not only did he murder her in like, I think the baseball hit, what, you know, like he hit her with the baseball by accident, but then everything else, hitting her with, you know, beating her with the baseball bat, then slitting her throat, and then, you know, stabbing her multiple times. So not only did he do all of that and then sleep on her on the mattress, which was on top of her, for a week, he also, along with his parents, joined in on all the searches, trying to search for her and her safe return. So he kind of just went through his life like nothing happened and continued to go to school and be part of the search parties and spent hours searching for her. When the police found out that she was under the mattress and they arrested him, they were pretty shocked because apparently they had searched the Phillipses' home like 3 times. And I couldn't find any more information on this, on why they searched the home, but apparently there was some kind of a tip but they searched the home 3 times and had mistaken the stench of Maddie's body and like the rotting body and corpse for the smell of the several birds that the family kept as pets. So the police were there multiple times, but did not correctly identify it as a dead body in the house.
And his mother didn't, you know,
that might be why she was cleaning too, you know, because that's something too, like it didn't really get into details on why she went into his room to clean, but that could be something where, it smells coming here. He has a bowl of cereal under his bed, or, you know, well, it's a water bed, but bowl of cereal somewhere, you know, where she probably thought it was something innocent. And
yeah, I'm going to get down to the bottom of the smell. Yeah.
And then she found it, and then maybe too she thought the bed was leaking, and so that's a, you know, moldy water, you know, whatever kind of smell.
Stale water,
So and at the time, or, you know, Josh Phillips, the murderer, he was born March 17th, 1984. He was born in Pennsylvania, in Allentown, Pennsylvania. But in the early 90s, his family moved across the street from the Cliftons to Florida. His father, Steve Phillips, was a computer specialist, and he was supposedly incredibly strict and very violent to Josh and to the mom, Melissa. And so when Josh confessed to these murders, he said that he was very scared and very afraid of his father's reaction if he came home to find not only Maddie in the front yard, but Maddie in the house as well. And so he was worried that when he threw the ball and hit her in the face when she was crying, he was worried that his dad was going to come home, find her crying in the front yard. And so that's when he hit her with the bat and then took her into the house. And then because she continued to cry, he continued to hit her with the bat until she stopped crying, because he was worried that somebody was going to come home and find her in the house and crying and, you know, get angry about it.
Did he sexually abuse her?
So that's something too. So I read somewhere, I don't know if it's 100% true, but I did read somewhere too that she was naked from the waist down when they found her in the bed. He claims that he never sexually assaulted her, and that her like pants and everything came off when he was around. And there was no evidence that she was sexually assaulted. So I don't know for sure on that, with that, for that. So, but
I remember this story. He was very innocent looking kid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He looked a lot younger than what he really was.
How old was he?
He was 14.
And I remember he had like round wire rimmed glasses. Very innocent. Yeah. He looked maybe 10, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he was very
and that's why
calm. That's why people very, were, you know, just kind of.
Yeah. And that's why people were so shocked, because they couldn't believe that this kid was able to do anything. But according to some of the sources too, his dad, Steve, was a drug addict and an alcoholic. And so when he was, like, he was strict about having children in the house, but he became very violent with them. And according to Melissa Phillips, he also disliked young girls, which is kind of weird. I wonder if that's something that kind of came about from that. But throughout the original investigation of this and through the trial, and even this also went through an appeals process and everything. So throughout the entire thing, it really kind of indicated that the Josh, his actions were because he was scared of his father and his father's reactions to it. It was kind of ignored. That whole narrative was really ignored through that. But Josh's father, Stephen, was really he was understandably angry about what happened to his son, being accused as a killer, a murderer, and killing Maddie. But he was also, horrified that his son did it. But his actions and like some of the comments he made throughout the entire like investigation really kind of showed who he was and kind of indicated that he may be the abusive father that Josh was alleging him to be. Because in one interview with CBS News in on June 12th of 2000, Steve Phillips placed the responsibility of Maddie's murder on her, saying that if she hadn't have come over, then none of it would have happened. Basically, like not holding his own son accountable for his actions, that the girl should have just stayed in her own yard, basically, instead of playing with a neighborhood kid with that. So, because and this was a small town, or this is a small town, but because so many people were involved with this, and hundreds of people were volunteers that helped to search for her. Once this kind of broke loose that it was a murder case and that Josh was going to be tried for murder, because he was charged with first-degree murder on this when he was arrested. The judge that was in charge of it ordered that the trial would take place in a county halfway across the state, to hope to be able to get a jury that had an unbiased opinion on this, because there's just too many people that were too close to the situation.
And it was a big deal if they were going to charge him as an adult.
Yes, and at the time they were able to charge him as an adult, and which they did. They charged him as an adult, and he was actually charged as an adult, and you kind of jumped me ahead on that, but he was charged as an adult, and he's still serving a lifetime in prison. But at the time when he was charged, when the trial was going on in 1999, when he was found guilty of the murder, they didn't have any laws in place for any minors who were charged as adults to not be have a sentencing of lifetime in prison. So that was changed after this case happened. So when he was tried as an adult to serve life in prison. Phillips's attorney, even, it was kind of a weird case too, because he didn't even pull a single witness on stand, and he was hoping to use his closing argument as the main portion of his defense, which was that Josh was scared of his dad. That was his whole defense, was that Josh was scared of his father, and he was acting out in desperation to hide having a not only like a friend or like a childhood friend, neighborhood friend in the yard in his house, but a young girl, a 8-year-old girl on top of that. So that was the whole defense that they put up for that. And then the trial. What?
I was gonna say, well, which like if you had brought any kind of witnesses, like maybe Josh's, schoolmate would have been a great witness testimony. Like that, it either shows that the lawyer was not the smartest, or that
biased.
Well, or that this is like a story. Like if they couldn't find a single witness to corroborate this.
Most of the time, when there is a parent that's like that, nobody suspects it.
Right.
Yeah, but there's still like suspect. It's the like young friends of the child usually have some kind of.
But they don't usually have.
He was not allowed to have friends over. He was not allowed to have.
Right.
So nobody came over to the house. But Josh has half brothers, and I saw somewhere they were like half siblings, half brothers, that also said that Steve was very verbally and physically abusive to Melissa and to Josh. So that's something too, like as a defense attorney, when you think to pull other family members in to, and even have Melissa take a stand, although she's, like she's going to go against her husband, which could cause issues. But so I just found it kind of odd that the defense counsel just didn't.
Right. That is very strange, especially in a case
to
like
me,
this.
It kind of made me feel like it was probably somebody that was appointed by the court, and he thought the kid was guilty, and you know what, here you go, I'll do my best. But I don't know. That's my opinion.
He didn't try to protect him like he should have, but lots of things. But he was guilty. I mean,
I think at the time. It probably was the attitude of the whole country. This was a big story.
Yeah, this was a huge
internet and everything.
But I mean, and he had already
how innocent we were at the time. This was such a huge story. It's an average story today, but I think at the time, probably most people in the country kind of went, it doesn't matter if you're. It was such a heinous crime. It's like, who cares if your dad was strict? That what you did was so outweighed that,
Exactly, right.
I mean, different if you would have killed her by accident and tried to hide her. Well, that's something. Okay, you're trying to hide her, but for him to like stab her and cut her throat after she's already dead,
Yeah, right. And that's it. Yeah, it was like obviously you thought about it, kind of thing, and did each thing in its own merit almost. But the thing though too is, even with the defense counsel, he already admitted to the police right off the bat that he committed the murder. His story was he was scared of his dad. That was kind of what he stuck by with that. So
I remember the story very well, and he was 14, but he looked 10. It was like, it's unbelievable, this kid.
And this, I mean, this wasn't the
he
first.
Acted very innocent,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But this wasn't the first, 8-year-old girl that got killed, unfortunately. But this, this was before Columbine. This was before all these mass shootings that we see daily now. So this was before, like when things were still somewhat innocent, and you could tell your kid to go play outside and not have to worry about them.
Right. I mean, the world was shocked by it. They wouldn't be shocked at all today.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a highly publicized trial. And it began in July 6th, 1999, but it only lasted 2 days. And I like what you were saying, Dad, like, I think everybody kind of already had a biased opinion, or maybe not biased, but they all went into it with this kid's guilty. But the jurors for the trial deliberated for barely more than 2 hours, and they found him guilty of first-degree murder. And he was sentenced on August 26th of 1999 to life in prison without any possible parole. And like I said, at that time, there was no laws against sentencing a minor to life in prison without parole. But the Supreme Court found that a mandatory life sentence for juveniles was unconstitutional in 2012. So in 2012, Josh Phillips had somewhat of a hope that he may be able to get out of prison before he dies. So he became eligible because of that Supreme Court ruling. He became eligible for a resentencing hearing. And at that time, many were worried that he was going to be able to go free, that he'd be released from prison, and kind of be able to move on with his life. He was resentenced in 2017, but the judge in that resentencing upheld the original sentence, and they continued to, or they upheld that original sentencing. So he is still in prison without parole, and so he is still serving life in prison to this day. So since this has happened, Maddie's parents they are not both, but Maddie's parents divorced. Josh's father was killed in a car accident. His mom has tried to appeal his case and his sentencing multiple times throughout the year. And she is really holding on, or kind of really sticking to, his actions were because of his, he was scared of his father and how his father would react. But I think I get it as a mom, like you want to do what's best for your kid, but she also did the right thing in the fact that she found the dead body and reported it to the police.
Right.
So
she didn't try to hide it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that is the murder of Maddie Clifton.
That was very sad.
1998.
Yeah, I don't think there's like a good outcome for that,
No.
Like even based off the gruesomeness of this crime, like he still was a kid. Like there's just kind of that, like, especially like even like with the like, after death, assaults, like there's just kind of like this like child mentality of like, well, what do I do now? Like, oh, I guess I'll stab her. Like, I guess I'll put her under my waterbed. I guess I'll, I don't know. Like, and it's like every day, like he's thinking about it, and you can just like, there's just, it is gruesome, and there's like a gruesomeness to it that like clearly I can see why he would get retried and sentenced the same way. But
I remember, I don't know if it was on 2020 or one of those shows at the time, they were interviewing him. Well, he was in prison at that point, but they interview him, and it's like I said, you're talking to like a 10-year-old, and he's like answering like a 10-year-old would answer. He had no remorse, no kind of
That's what I did see, like in recent interviews, he does like regret doing what he did. And like I know in one of the interviews he was asked, like, how did you go on living your life after you killed her and had her under your bed? And he kind of claims that, like he just kind of was in denial and just like thought like it didn't happen and just kind of pushed it out of his mind, which I think, honestly, I believe that, because as a 14-year-old,
I could see myself doing something like that. You just kind of push it out and deny it and live your life and don't even think about it. Yeah.
It'll go away.
Right.
But I can see that, definitely.
I did. The one thing I found kind of odd with this one, or maybe just sad, is when I like Googled Maddie Clifton murder, the first thing that pops up is a Wikipedia page about Josh Phillips. And that's something that I don't know if maybe her parents have some kind of control over that, but it just seems that like everything's more about him than it is about her. And so I find that kind of sad, because
probably because it was a groundbreaking, they changed laws because of him.
Right.
Well, and also I think it's just kind of something to deal with, like story-wise, because like even so, I had the same problem with the Kaylee Anthony case, where I was trying to find information about Kaylee Anthony, but basically because she's a minor, and her mom was basically
the story was the mom
story. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I don't know. And then so on that Wikipedia page, I hadn't looked at it until now, but on it does say that he is eligible for resentencing this year. So it doesn't give a month, but it just says 2023. So that could be, he is 39 years old now. So he'll be 40 in March, well, in about a year, March 17th. So that's kind of crazy, because he's served more than half of his life has been in prison already.
Right.
So, yeah.
I do think that like there's just some crimes that like you can't not charge people with like as an adult like this. Like there's no way you cannot charge him as an adult for this kind of this gruesome of a murder.
Right.
But also at the same time, like I agree that like life without parole for minors is kind of a really, really harsh sentence. And I think we've talked about this before. And like I've said, like it's just a very, very harsh sentence for someone who, like, again, we've just said it, like he was in denial about what happened. Like he probably really didn't understand what he was doing at the time, didn't understand the consequences of his actions.
Right.
You know.
And I feel like
if they let him, you know, they went soft on him and let him. Well, that opens the door for every.
Right.
Oh yeah, it's setting a precedent, and it's something that like it's going to be hard to then go back and say like, well, we let him out. Why won't we let this person out? Or let them do it, you know?
But I do feel like, and I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but I do feel like the life sentencing now is 25 years.
I think you're right. So,
that's where, like, you know, that could be something where, like, when he hits 25 years, maybe they would release him from prison. But at the same time, he's, like I said, he's been in there since he was 14, 15 years old, more than half of his life. How is he going to adjust to a normal everyday life after? You know, and that's something too, like.
That's not really, I don't know, it sounds harsh, but how does
that's not our problem.
Her mother have to adjust to the rest of her life not having her daughter.
Right. Oh, yeah. I agree with that too. But it's just, you know, that's something too where, you know, I don't know. But that's,
well, and
I think too, with like a lot of other people, they get like the life sentencing times 4 because they killed 4 people, you know, so that's where I think it is 25 years. I'm not 100% sure.
I feel like you're right about that. A life sentence is 25 years.
Yeah.
Which I think is something that changed, not because of this, but after this happened. So that's another thing too. So.
Yeah. I don't know. Cause even like, so he gets out of prison and we say like, oh, we don't really care how he adjusts. But at the same time, like he probably has a GED at best, maybe a bachelor's of some kind.
He probably has a doctor's degree after being in prison.
But I mean, like, you know, who's gonna hire somebody who has been in jail for so long for murder of a young child, you know? And so, if he doesn't adjust well coming back into society, he's just going to get into a life of crime and then just spend the rest of in and out, you know, in prison. So like if we don't adjust him, you know,
like maybe
we're just kind of failing
ago. Maybe it was when I don't know, a few years ago, and they interviewed him, and of course now he's an adult and he's completely changed, but he seemed very normal, very, you know, you know, he didn't really remember doing it. And
right.
You know,
yeah.
so.
Can you
remember?
And
that's something too. It really could have been a crime of passion in a sense, you know, where it just like, you know, he's 14 years old. He hit her, then he hit her with the bat, you know, and then like, oh crap, like what did I just do? And now she's crying even more, and now he's scared. You know, so he's trying to cover up.
It started out as an accident, and he's trying to shut her up and not even understanding the consequences of what he's doing.
Well, and think about the fact that his father was probably abusive, and that's the behavior he probably watched his father when his mother or he would cry was to punish them, and so this probably was something he thought was normal.
Stabbing is bad enough, but I'm gonna slice her throat. That's really bad. Yeah, you know what I mean, that shows he kind of has some thought behind it. Even the stabbing, you know, I just freaking out and I got a knife. I'm just gonna, you know, start stabbing. But to think I'm gonna cut her throat, that takes some thinking.
Right.
Well, right. I also wonder if it was, you know, he was trying, like he knows everyone's looking for her. He knows that he can't keep her under the bed forever. So I do wonder if that kind of this very aggressive, you know, I think you know, well, I'm going to make it look like somebody else did it, you know, like, I'm going to slit her throat and stab her, and they'll think that she got murdered.
And that could be why she was like,
I know, but then to hide him under his bed, I mean.
Well, I think what happened,
waiting for the cops to walk away, and then, you know, hide her in the bushes or something.
Yeah, that's true.
I think what happened is that like he hit her under the I think he hit her in the bed after he beat her with the baseball bat and was planning on like doing what you just said, but then she was still whimpering, and under the bed, and he could hear it. So that's when he like slit her throat and stabbed her and stuff, because then at that point people knew she was missing. She was being reported as missing. And so that was something too that I think he, like what you said, planned on moving her. But that's, like maybe that's why she was missing clothes from the bottom half, is that he was trying to like, okay, how can I get the, like dump her over here? We know what, like if he's 14, he probably knew there's a neighbor that has
how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
right.
okay, if I slice her throat and stab her, well then, they're going to think that somebody else, somebody else did it.
Even if
or even like taking off her pants, taking it to a different location. Because I'm sure there was search dogs.
Right.
Right. Taking her pants, putting them somewhere else so that they go somewhere else and she can hide her.
Yeah. That makes more sense. Yeah.
And that's what, I think he was, kind of in denial, but trying to also figure out how to get himself out of the situation he put himself into.
Right.
So.
Right.
Doesn't lessen anything,
No, I think the charges were correct, and I think that he should have gone to jail. Life without parole. I don't disagree with it, but I also don't know if I really do agree with it with minors. I do think that there's got to be some kind of maybe midway,
That's the thing, like it is such a kind of a gruesome murder, but I also don't feel like he did it maliciously either.
No,
that's where
I don't think he did.
So, I do kind of, from what I could read, I mean, I do kind of believe he was just scared and didn't know what to do, and then just kept digging a bigger hole, and buried himself, But,
right. But that also just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't bring her back. Doesn't give her justice.
No.
No.
So
like Dad said, like his parents or Maddie's parents have to go without a child for the rest of their life.
Right.
So
that's
a life sentence in itself.
If he was saying, I just hit her with the bat by accident, then she started crying, I couldn't get her to stop, and he tells the story of like, in the end, I was just coming up with anything to make it look like somebody else did it. So I'm gonna, but he didn't. He just kind of kept quiet, and he just really wouldn't talk about it.
I did just remember, I did read in one of the articles that I was reading about this, that because Maddie had an older sister, and I did read somewhere that apparently there was rumors that he was like had a crush on her older sister and was almost obsessive with the older sister. And so when it's like alleged that because he saw her kind of did this to her in a fantasy of like being with her sister.
I'm not certain, but I think that was an angle. They said, and like the older sister kind of rejected them and made him feel.
Right. Yep. He asked her out and she said no.
Something like that. Yeah. And like I said, he was 14, but he acted and looked 10.
Yeah.
So if this other girl is 14 and looks 20,
Yeah.
So he was rejected. I'm pretty sure that's an angle. Or something that happened.
And that's what, like I said, it's like I saw that somewhere, but I didn't see it everywhere. And then the same with like there was immediate like a suspect of another neighbor that had kind of like similar charges, but he was not, or like there was similar. He was listed as a suspect, but he was never charged for or the charges were dropped, kind of thing. So, but I couldn't find anything more on that. Like it's just like I said, it was all more about Josh Phillips than Maddie.
Well, and probably also with the other suspect, because he was found innocent. I'm sure he has a record. Like I'm sure they were like, oh, gotta keep his, or he probably got a lawyer to keep his name, out of the story.
But I also think because Josh, her body was found in Josh's bed or like under his mattress, and he admitted it within a week. I think that was something like, oh, like all the other suspects just kind of disappeared where
right.
He already admitted it. We found him in his bed, case closed kind of situation.
Yeah, right.
So where, her body was found on the street, maybe, they would have had him as a suspect and he would have been somebody in prison for a murder he didn't commit, like so many other people.
Right.
He wouldn't have been the first.
No.
Doesn't it seem like a lot of gruesome things happen in Florida?
Well,
yeah. You know,
there's a lot going on in Florida.
This was in the 90s.
Probably gonna be a lot more gruesome things happening too.
Yeah, they're kind of feel bad for Florida residents at the moment.
Mm-hmm. I've heard a lot of people say that they will only go to Florida, fly directly into Orlando, and leave directly from Orlando.
Well, they won't be doing that long because Orlando's going to be wiped out soon. Oh, we better not go on this topic.
No.
I spent all weekend telling my dad, who lives half of his life in Florida.
Yeah.
Educating him. But anyways.
I do wonder if if like, with the older sister, obviously as adults who have seen, the worst of the worst, we come up with this story of like, oh, she rejected him and this was kind of revenge. But I also wonder if like almost innocently, like he had a crush. He was playing with her younger sister and then he does like kills her on accident, and like, he's like, I don't want my crush to find out that I killed her younger sister.
Right.
And that's why he hid it for so long, and that's why he didn't tell anybody.
Or maybe, he did have a crush and she said, oh, hey, can I play with you? And he's like, yeah, I'll play with you because your sister's going to come over.
Right.
See me playing with you and then we'll hit it off, and then it just
exactly.
So.
Because I feel like the revenge thing, like, I mean, maybe. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm saying like, that's coming from, a point of view that you think the worst of people, but it's not always the case.
I mean, there was a girl that worked at Walgreens that got murdered because she rejected somebody. So
well, that was also a grown man who did that. So not a 14-year-old child. That was a 30-year-old man.
Yeah, I think with this case, I do think it was a 14-year-old that was like, oh crap, what do I do now? And tried to resolve it on his own and just got worse and worse. So I don't know.
Well, I can say as a father of 4, when your kids are 10 and 14, they can do a lot of things you just cannot understand.
I have a 4-year-old and he does things I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know. I
don't know about any of my kids killing anybody. If they did, I don't know about it.
I don't know if killing anybody.
I don't know about it either.
It'd be a surprise to me too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not that I know of.
Well, they didn't turn on me and try to kill me anyhow.
Right.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure one of you in this square here, the odds are, has thought about killing me.
Oh, Mom, that's so nice of you to say no.
Notice she said no after you two did. She was like, I'm not saying nothing. Well, now I have to because the other two said no.
No. I could hang you by your toes, but no.
Okay, there you go.
Not murder.
I have, and I can say this to you because you've heard me say it enough times, and I'm not serious, but if I would have killed you when I met you, I'd be out of jail by now.
No, you would not have.
No, you would not.
No,
not if you're serving a life.
You were an adult.
You would have been life in prison forever.
This is 25 years.
Nope, that wasn't.
Well, if you would have killed her when you met her, that was before that law went into place.
Yeah,
that would have been
long before that law.
So you would have been grandfathered into the original life in prison.
Yeah, just like Josh Phillips.
Hanging me out in the town square.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Coal and feather you. Tar and feather.
I like coal and feather. I like that.
That'd be me. I'd be standing there like, It's supposed to be tar, not coal.
They're just throwing chunks of coal.
Ouch!
Are they hot coals or
Right, right?
cold coals?
Something's not working here.
Those feathers aren't sticking.
Well, if it's hot coals that's burning your skin, they might stick. You know,
Mm.
you never know. Yep.
Another one I've always told your mother was, your cooking has saved your life.
And what have you done for her that has saved your life?
Nothing.
What do you
I'm ready
provide for
to go.
her?
I'm ready to go at any moment. I'm living on the edge.
If my cooking mattered,
Because
that would have been dead
We
several years
know,
ago.
we know your mother could survive without me. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
That's a good one. I have definitely heard of that one before. I didn't think of ever doing that one, but
I feel like every
it
once
is
in a while
such
they
a
do an
strange
update
story.
on some show.
I
about
do.
it.
I do
Oh, yeah.
recall. You know, that going on, and just such a sad thing.
Did I miss something?
Who?
You guys are all talking about remembering something going on.
The
Like, it was
Maddie,
just-
The case.
your case.
yeah, I must have missed the beginning of it. It must have cut
I
out.
said
Because
this is a good. I said this was a
Okay.
good story that
Yeah.
you picked.
Nope.
I don't.
Definitely missed that. It was
Yeah.
like quiet, and then all of a sudden you guys are like, "Yeah, right."
No,
that
I
was
remember
really
the
good."
day.
I'm going crazy.
Yeah, you don't remember we tarred and feathered someone, right? That's what we were talking about right
You
before.
cold and feathered me.
No, this was a good story.
got abducted
I've
by
heard about
aliens.
it before, and
And
you know.
what was her name? Maddie or
Maddie Clifton.
Clifton. I do remember.
And this is
Yeah, I think it's
I thought it was
such
a
a-
good story, but it was like something I don't really remember. I mean, I kind of vaguely remember it because I would have been 11, 12 years old, you know, like, but it's like it wasn't something.
you had to have been
98?
older than that because I would have been 6.
So 11, no, 12, maybe 13. Yeah, I guess I would have been about 13. Yeah. I can't do math.
6 and 8 is 14.
Yeah, definitely Josh does not look like a little 10-year-old
So you
boy.
literally would have been his age, Jess. Like you were the exact
Yeah.
age.
Yeah. Well, he's like Jordan's age. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, just a little bit younger than him. Yeah.
It's such a hard story to not play devil's advocate for. Like there's
Right,
just no
exactly,
right answer. There's no
Right. Everybody's
good
a
outcome.
loser in that.
right.
It's like you almost
exactly.
right. It's like you almost feel bad for him. You obviously feel bad for her and her parents,
Right.
you know, and it's this
When you
8-year-old
see so many
kid. that-
cases now where we feel justice isn't served because the person who murdered somebody or assaulted someone got away with it,
Right.
and then this case where he sentenced, but it doesn't feel like justice. It doesn't
Right.
feel like
Exactly.
the right thing
Yep.
happened.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I thought it was a good story.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
an
It's a
interesting
little,
story.
like I said, it's a little gruesome, kind of a
Yeah.
little bit more detailed than some of the stuff that we put out there, but
But it's good to talk about it. Good to put it out there. Can't always be rainbows and sunshine and possessed dolls.
butterflies.
And possessed dolls. We were talking about your possessed. I said you got to watch Cassie's broadcast.
It's coming out tomorrow.
Not broadcast.
You know what? Somebody
It's a podcast.
last week told me, "Oh, I got a perfect story for you," and it was about this doll.
Robert.
I'm like, "In Florida?" They're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Keep watching. It's coming up."
Thursday, July
We got,
6th.
we got 2 weeks of Florida stories.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about
Yeah.
that.
I guess
Well-
I didn't think about that either.
Maybe he saw Robert the doll before
Yeah.
this happened.
Right.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Where's
where-
Robert's in
That's
the
the
Keys, right? Where
Yeah.
was
he's
he
in Key West.
before? Yeah. Yeah. This is in Jacksonville. So a little bit of distance.
A little bit of it. And actually, now that I think about it, Robert was moved in 1998. So he
This is
wasn't
when
in the
it
museum.
happened.
I know, but it probably wasn't like a big tourist attraction. Well, I guess they did say he was a tourist attraction almost immediately. So
Yeah.
family could have been
Maybe-
like, I heard of some
maybe-
cursed doll that just showed up at this museum.
Yeah. Or
Let's go
maybe
do a
when they were
tour.
moving it down to the Keys, they were stopped at the gas station or something.
Dave got
Robert
the shit beat out of him this weekend.
I don't know.
Reed beat the hell out of him.
Oh no.
Yeah. I wasn't happy about it neither.
What? Oh, Dave.
Dave.
What?
Always scary.
Like, that is
It's
not
a thing
nice.
that scares people, so it probably scares children.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It did scare my dad several times this weekend.
Oh,
Yeah, scared us too.
We did scared.
Hmm.
All right,
The
you
happy
guys.
scream or
Yeah, right. There you go. So, if you like this story, leave a comment. If you want to hear more, give us send us an email. I'm gonna say give us a call, but we're not gonna give us we're not gonna give out our phone numbers.
Let me put the phone number scrolling across the bottom. Call
We will not
800.
1-800.
Make sure to
No.
like our YouTube videos, like our podcast, subscribe. You can find us
Follow
on
anywhere you
YouTube.
listen.
Yeah, follow us wherever you listen. Or if you want to watch us, find us on YouTube, Family School of Thought. Send us your thoughts at the Family School of Thought at gmail.com. The email address is right there at the bottom of the screen.
Scrolling the whole time.
Scrolling the whole time. Yes. Join our family. Listen to us while you're in your bed.
Don't you want
You're
to be a
in the
part of the
shower.
family?
When you're in the shower,
Don't
what's
you
that
want-
email address? Write
Don't
it
you
on
want
your
to have
shower
these
wall.
discussions all the time?
Yes, while you're working. Don't you want to listen to this stuff?
So fun.
Most people listen in their car. I
Yes,
Oh, do
found
they?
out.
I've said that before. Yeah.
Oh,
I listen to
they probably
podcasts.
got-
Yeah, I listen to podcasts in my car mostly. Or like when I'm doing chores around the house.
I listen while I'm working.
Hey, if you're planning a murder, maybe you want to listen to us while you're murdering. I don't know.
I know somebody that got backed up at work, and they were kind of like, somebody said something to them. They're like, I'm trying to keep up with my podcast.
I can't listen to you right now. I've got to go.
Well, in Michigan now, if you're listening to us, make sure that it is hands-free. Don't touch your phone because we're not responsible for your $100 ticket.
Yeah, it's up to 500, isn't it?
It's 100 for the first offense, and then I think if you hit 3 offenses, it's like 500.
Wow.
And community
should-
service.
I was gonna say you should probably evaluate some values when reevaluate when you get 3 tickets within probably a
Yeah.
span of
And when I'm
a
working,
year.
picking up trash alongside the road, you know why that was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
because you were listening to
Keep
the family
your-
school
keep
thought.
your phone-
'Cause I was trying to keep up with the Family School of Thought. Okay, guys, anything you want to add to the story tonight? Not all the other topics we talked about, just the story that we're talking about.
that was a good story, Jess. That was.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Cass, you have your work cut out for you this week.
You'll be editing good, but you do such a fantastic job.
But anyways, all right, guys, we're going to let you go. Thank thanks for stopping in and listening to us. Be sure to hit that like button and share this with your friends. And we need to build our base here. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you next week.
Bye.